Good evening, and welcome to Scott's Amateur Woodshop. I'm coming at you today to share a little project idea with you. And this is one that you can do just with a knife. And if you have bought a little hand plane, you can incorporate that as well. So I've already mentioned that you might want to take a stick and explore the beauty of wood with your knife. This is going to be a little more goal-oriented. So what we're going to make tonight is a letter opener, or you can think of it as a wooden knife. It's an easy project. It demands that you make a few different kind of cuts. It's something you might actually use. It's not very big. I think it might be just perfect. So what you need to find is a stick or a block of wood that's long enough to be a knife and about the right size. A stick is a great place to start. A scrap of wood. I'm doing it with a couple of pieces of dowel that I found. So you want to make sure part of it is going to be a handle, and another part of it is going to be the blade, right? Blade. So I'm going to take my knife out. Now this is oak. I like how quarter sawn oak looks. So I'm going to make my flat faces of my knife blade perpendicular to the rings, parallel to the rays. I wish you could see that. The camera won't focus. I think you can see the rings, and this is the direction I'm going to put the blade. Okay, so I'm going to hold it by the part that'll be the handle and start cutting away with my knife. Now, this cut that I'm using here, I have kind of a lock wrist. I'm cutting away from myself, just like they tell you to do. Usually, and I'll start making a flat surface. And we can check to make sure it's in the orientation we want, adjust it a little bit. You're going to do that for a while. You're also going to go on the other side, do it there for a while. And now you might also like to make the end of this not squared off. You might like to round it off. So you could use a parent cut and cut towards yourself, as long as where the blade ends up is going to miss your thumb. Missing my thumb, right? And you can work your way around and put a nice bevel on this edge. Or you can do this cutting away from yourself, like this. Okay, so I'm going to pretend like this is a cooking show and show you one that's a little further along. This is one where I have carved this part flat. Excuse me. And I have rounded off the butt of the handle a little bit. So now I'll show you some of the next things you can do. Well, if you have a plane, you might want to adjust the shape of this blade with the plane. You might want to have a straight line instead of going this way that just angles a little bit in. So let's try that. Let's see what that looks like. Set my knife down carefully. All right, camera, please focus. Well, let's focus close anyway. Might as well show you that for a minute. So I'm going to start the plane so that the iron is going to cut starting where I want it to. You can see the light passing through the mouth of the plane there. That's about where it's going to start the cut. And then I'm just going to take a shaving off the spine of the blade here. Now this is adjusted for too heavy of a cut. It's too hard to push. So that doesn't work. So I'm going to make sure that this iron isn't over tightened in place. And I'm going to tap the heel of it on something. Nope. You know what? I need a bigger adjustment than that. So I am simply going to reset it from the beginning. I'm just going to set the blade so that the iron, so that it's barely touching the wood, pushing it down so it just starts to dig in, tightening this. Okay, let's try this again. Nope. I'm going to tap the back of the iron on something so that it advances it slightly. Here we go. Now it's taken a little off here. A little more. Sometimes the first few passes with a plane, it appears to be not taking much, and it's because where you're trying to take material from isn't flat, and so it might just be taking off a little chip from one high spot. Sometimes you're not taking off material because your plane iron actually isn't adjusted right. Another way you can adjust the plane blade, which I'm going to do right now, or the plane iron, is to sight down the end of it. I'll show you what that looks like this. And just visually, you want the iron to show up as a dark bar above the, now this is exaggerated for your benefit so you can see it. You want the iron to show up as a dark bar above there, but just a thin one. So that's another way to do it. Now, I suppose a smart YouTuber would have had a perfectly adjusted plane to begin with. I guess that tells you all you need to know about me. Anyway, there we go. Get some shavings out of this thing. Okay, that makes that nice and straight. And since I'm starting it in the same place instead of starting it way back at the end, this is starting to just angle down a little bit, which I hope you can see. I'm only going to do a little bit more because I want this to be rather subtle. Another thing you could do with a plane is you could put facets on your grip. If you wanted this to be an octagon instead of a round handle, you could do that. Or if you're starting from a square block, you could take off the corners and make it an octagon that way, or even round if you took off the corners again and again. So I'm going to take a little bit off the handle here. Put a facet. Okay, I like that facet. That looks like a good size. I'm going to put another one on the opposite side. Now, we don't want to leave this wooden blade a big rectangle, so let's work on that a bit. Now that this is thin, you can change the shape of it quite quickly. I'm going to take off an angle here, make it kind of curved. I'm using my eye to determine where I would like to take off material. Just based on what looks right to me. Just following my artistic intuition. And my first pass looks like this. Now, this is a rather thick edge, so let's make it a little sharp. I'm going to take our knife, run down the edge at a little bit of a different angle. Now, this is also a good time to think about the geometry of a sharp blade. You'd probably, just like this, start with many knives start with a piece of sheet metal, just a piece of flat material. That's what you're starting with here. But at some point you need to grind off material near the edge to make it sharp. That's what we're doing here. If you take off a lot, it actually will change the shape of the blade. So let me show you what that looks like. You can see I'm approaching a thin edge here, but I've taken more off on this side. There's a nice bevel on here, but on the back there's not much of a bevel. I want the bevels to match, so I'm going to put a little bevel on the back. And now, oh no, it started to alter the shape. Now this is now back, instead of being here, it's back here a little bit. So you might want to go back and cut this way again to refine the shape a little bit. And next time we thin the edge, we might not go all the way to a point, because it doesn't really need to be fully sharp as a letter opener. So when you're done, you will have something that can hopefully cut paper. Let's see if it works. I'm just going to take a piece of paper. It's not an envelope, but we'll make do. Fold it. Slip this point in, and not bad. Not bad at all. Now I have a couple of smaller pieces of paper, don't I? Okay, so I would recommend this project if you've taken my advice and bought your first tool, a knife, and maybe your second one, a plane. With that, I think I'll leave you. I wish you a pleasant evening. I hope you learned something tonight, and I hope you learned something tomorrow too. Bye now.